If you're interested in your health and the health of your loved ones, you're not going to want to miss this show. Hi, I'm Kean Wong. In the studios today is Patty McPeak. Patty is also known around the world as Rice Patty. Patty's the founder of Nutricia, a world leader in stabilized rice bran production, and also she's a pioneer in nutraceutical research, out there to change the eating habits of the world, not only in the United States, but in third world countries as well. Patty, thanks for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, despite literally tens of billions of dollars of research, a lot by pharmaceutical companies and sister companies, and despite all the new prescribed drugs and medicines, I'm reading online that about 60% of people are expected to either die of cancer, diabetes, or heart disease. And over the next 10 to 12 years, cancer rates are going to go up possibly by even 50%. What's going on?
What's happening, Kean, is that we're not giving our bodies the nutrient tools that the body needs to heal itself. We're using processed food our bodies don't recognize as food. And so what's happening is that we're developing an inflammatory and an immune response to the foods we're eating. On top of that, we are looking at the body as a series of parts when it needs to be looked at as a whole unit that works together synergistically to create health.
Now, Patty, let's just back up a little bit. You have an amazing story. Now, some people discover their life's calling later in life, but you started pretty young.
Well, yes. A lot of people don't believe that I can remember what it was like when I was 3 years old, but I truly do. At the age of 3, I was living in Los Angeles, California, and I was on the front porch of my home. And by the way, this was during World War II, and I had a vision. And it was something that I will never forget as long as I live. It has patterned my life. And this vision was that I had a mission to accomplish that was so important that there would be things that I would be deprived of in life because the mission was that important, and that I was to follow my inner voice that would guide me, and I would find what this mission was.
At 3, I mean, was it can you just describe what type of experience that was? I mean, it's just hard to fathom at 3. I can't even remember what I did when I was 7 or 8, let alone 3.
Well, my great-grandmother from Ireland was sitting next to me, and I was the only child, the only grandchild, and the only great-grandchild. So you can imagine I was a little bit spoiled. And we were talking, and suddenly it was like I was enveloped in a white light. It was like a swirling white light. And this voice spoke to me and told me that how much I was loved, and that I was loved, and that I would be guided to this mission. It was a profound experience. And since that time, I've had a number of other, I had one near-death experience at the age of 6, and I was surrounded by these, I don't know what they were angelic beings, but there were 14 of them, and they circled my bed for several days, and they were giving me information during that time. And my grandmother again sat at the end of my bed while I was in this very, very guarded condition. So, and all my life I've had this same male voice speak to me and guide me, warn me, and I've had some kind of an ability to know things that are going to happen in the future. I've been very blessed.
And then, high school days passed, and did you actually get into research straight away, like as a medical scientist, or what area did you actually study?
Well, I was always interested in food and started cooking when I was very, very young. I was
at 5?
No, actually, I started cooking meals when I was about 7.
Oh wow, I wasn't far off.
No, you weren't far off. And I began cooking, and by the time I was in the 5th grade, I was teaching my teachers how to cook. And by the time I was in the 6th grade, I was making pizzas, and this is, by the way, long before there were pizzerias in our country. And so, food was always an interest. My family always had their own chickens, and we raised our own vegetables. So I was raised in that environment. I was a 4-H'er, and so this was something that was near and dear to me. I really wanted to be a doctor, but I wasn't built to be able to do that. I couldn't ever dissect the worm. I couldn't
I know what you mean.
I couldn't dissect the frog.
No.
And so I think that was for a reason, because had I would never have discovered what I have discovered. So my whole life has been guided by this voice and into discoveries that, you know, some people watching probably think that maybe I'm a nutcase, which is okay. You know, I like being a nut. No, it's okay. But all I say is that judge me by my patents, by the products I have created, because I have no background to have done anything that I've done other than this inspiration.
It's phenomenal. So you ended up, you know, how young did you realize that food and creating a superfood that could feed the world would ultimately, you know, be your life's work?
Well, it was really an unfoldment. When I was in high school and college, rather than give presents to my friends, I would give care packages. So I was always very conscious of the importance of reaching out and helping people that were in need. But it wasn't really until I was probably in my mid-20s when this voice said to me, Patty, you need to get your mission accomplished. And so it was at that point that I said, okay, I'm going to do this in earnest. I moved from Central California.
What were you doing at the time? What sort of work were you doing?
At the time, I was working as a secretary for a petroleum company. And I didn't know how I was going to find this mission, so I got my real estate license, my insurance license, and I had 3.5 years of college. I was an English major, a French minor. I loved the sciences, except for, you know, the biology. I didn't want to cut open any animals, and so I went into the physical sciences and chemistry. I was always very good in that. But I realized that I had to be exposed to a number of opportunities. So I moved to Southern California, and I went into venture capital work. And the first company that came to me was a portable telephone company, which I arranged the financing, and that gave me the money to be able to begin to pursue this mission of mine. The next company that
So, sorry, you went from, you went down to South California to get involved with venture capital work.
Right.
So you got into the capacity of actually evaluating different opportunities.
That's right.
And so on. Oh, that's pretty amazing, just from doing secretarial work.
That's right. I could take 5 years of P&Ls, and I could look at them and see a pattern, and see an opportunity, see where there was something deficient. I was not trained to do it. How I did it, I have no idea.
And venture capital, it was quite in its infancy back.
That's right.
You know,
this is back in the early 70s, and anyway, somehow I managed to do it.
No,
I don't know how I got from there to here.
From a 3-year-old, you know, with a vision to make a difference, to being the founder of a $500 million publicly traded food technology company. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the new Millionaire. Now, Patty, you said you got into the venture capital industry and you managed to raise some capital for a phone technology company, was it?
Yes. And from there, I was then able to take on another client who was looking for money for a fish protein concentrate plant. And it took me 2 years. I had to actually work in the company to learn enough about nutrition and protein research and solvent extraction to be able to put a package together that raised the money. So I ended up working with doctors from UCLA, Loma Linda, and it was a wonderful time. And I was just so grateful for the opportunity to work with these mentors of mine. And but I realized rather quickly that the answer to malnutrition to solving the famine crisis that I could see was coming on the planet was not going to be from the seas. At that time, they were starting environmental impact reports. It was nothing that I could see would ever be a commercially viable business. But it taught me something. When the fishermen were on strike, the fish would be inshore ready to fish. When the fishermen were working, La Nina would come in and the fish would be offshore. So I realized from that I needed to find a guaranteed feedstock. So I began looking for what would be a wasted food resource. And it took me about 6 years, from about 1975, when I closed down the fish protein company, to 1981, when I learned about an incredible opportunity, and that was rice bran. It was the largest wasted food resource on earth. And a Dr. Robin Saunders of the USDA Western Regional Research Center had received a grant to find a way to deactivate an enzyme that was causing this very nutritious food to spoil. And so, you know, if I have one man in my life that I would consider my mentor, it would have been the late Dr. Robin Saunders from the USDA.
Interesting. So, you know, for thousands of years, many different cultures, like the Chinese culture, for example, have been, you know, eating rice as the main source of nutrition. Now, when I speak to my doctor friends about stabilized rice bran, that not the husk, but the bran, the outside of that brown rice, I think they've always known that it's very nutritious, but and it goes rancid through the milling process. But how did you actually, you know, what was that journey of discovering a way to stabilize that rice bran to make it edible?
Well,
and what actually got you thinking that this is edible stuff, not just wasted material?
Well, that was my discovery. Initially, what we were trying to do was to find a way to preserve this most incredible fat that resides in the bran layer, and that is, it becomes rancid because of an enzyme called the lipase enzyme. So initially, our thought was, and the goal of the USDA, was to find a way to be able to extract this edible oil. Now, the rice bran becomes rancid in a matter of hours, depending on the temperature, the climate, and as you know, most rice is grown in very humid, hot countries. And so, you know, you only have a short time to be able to deactivate this enzyme. Well, as I began to analyze this situation, I discovered that a company called Piper Industries had a soybean crop cooker that they were going to, that they didn't want to keep this company. They were going to sell it off. So my partner and I bought this company, this division of Piper Industries, and it was called the Brady Crop Cooker. And he and I, he later became my husband, Dan McPeak, began to modify this extruder. We went to the USDA and I knocked on the door and I said, "Hello, Dr. Robin Saunders. You know, we're your new partners." And so we began a wonderful relationship with the USDA in providing them with equipment that they could then use to develop stabilization technology for deactivating this lipase enzyme.
Oh, interesting. From a business perspective, you had funding from outside investors to help with putting the team of scientists together
No. My partner and I self-funded this. When we bought this division of Piper Industries, we ended up with 23 crop cookers, which we sold to various countries throughout the world for making tripasha in Sri Lanka and in Guyana. They were using it to make a feeding food for a kind of a gruel that was at least a food for these people to eat, but not from the rice bran, you know, from local grains. No, it was really rather serendipitous that we came upon this, or that I came upon this idea. When we began looking at the economics of extracting the edible oil, rice bran at the best is 24% fat. And if you stabilize it, you're able to probably get maybe at 18%, 20% yield from the total rice bran. So now you've got, if you have 100 pounds of rice bran, you're going to end up with 20 pounds of oil. Now you've got 80 pounds of this defatted rice bran that has very little value. It was being sold into markets as a low cost feed extender. And I just didn't see that this was going to be an economically viable model. So I began doing research on the stabilized rice bran itself and discovered that it was so rich in the B vitamins. And at that time, we didn't understand anything about vitamin E complex. And I began to see, doing analytical work, I discovered that it was very rich in vitamin E and something called tocotrienols, which are even much more important and much more active isomers of vitamin E complex.
So isomers of vitamin E complex, so it's a very bioavailable amalgamation of different vitamins, just to sort of simplify it for the...
Yes, if vitamin E taken as alpha tocopherol, it's all right, but compared to taking the mixed tocopherols and the tocotrienols, now you're getting something that is a powerhouse in helping the body to fight cancer and heart disease and diabetes and autoimmune illnesses. But back in the 80s, we were just beginning to understand what tocotrienols were. And by the way, they only exist in rice, barley, and palm oil.
Okay. So eventually you discover there's actually 120 naturally occurring animals, which is like the most nutrient-rich whole food on the planet?
Absolutely. And to this very moment, it is the most nutrient-dense food on Earth.
And back in our first segment, you were saying, why are we getting all this chronic degenerative diseases? Because we're lacking in nutrients? I mean, we're so overfed.
Well, we may be calorically overfed, but we are all suffering from the same disease state. Whether you have cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, these are all, obesity, these are all states of nutrient deprivation.
Wow. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll find out more about these amazing products that Patty's company and her new company, Nanacea, is developing for the rest of the world. We'll be right back.
This is New Tang Dynasty Television.
We're here with Rice Patty McPeak, the inventor of stabilized rice bran and the founder of Nutricea, a company that went from zero to over $500 million in market cap. Tell us, how did that happen in a relatively short, few years, or was it 5 or 10 years, but when it got listed and went so, high in valuation?
Well, essentially, I developed some products that caught the interest of the deputy director of the National Institute of Nutrition in Hyderabad, India. It happened to be this product here.
Rice solubles.
The rice soluble fraction of the rice bran. And she and her name is Dr. Rukmini Cheravanki, and she and Dr. Sastry Cherukuri came from India. They resigned their positions and came to the United States and began to help me build a team that enabled us to get the patents that we have today for treating type 1 and type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, arthritis. And I built a wonderful team of people to help me fulfill this mission.
And that's the key, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
A lot of people, a lot of inventors, unfortunately never get their products out there. They spend their whole lives working on it. But, finding that team of like-minded people with the vision that you had from age 3, they were obviously drawn to that.
Yes, they were. It became a passion for them as well as for me. And today, I believe that Nutricea is probably one of the most important companies on the face of the earth, with the ability to increase world food production. Over 60 million metric tons of rice bran are wasted every year, and we can convert that to a food without growing another blade of grass, without using another gallon of water, by just utilizing the technology that my husband and I created through Nutricea.
That is phenomenal. Now, with the actual, you were working in Nutricea as the founder for many years, and then you retired a few years ago. And now at age 68, 9, you're starting a new company. Tell us, what happened there as well.
Well, I really turned NutriSea over to people that I felt had the ability to handle the ingredient part of this. I was really interested in making finished products. NutriSea is doing rice bran oil extraction, and they are involved in certain areas of nutraceuticals as well, but they're more of an ingredient supplier. I wanted to focus on finished products, and I wanted to finish my mission, which is now into a philanthropic area. As you may know, I was just recently elected to the board of directors of Airline Ambassadors.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you, yeah. and I'm just feel so blessed. I'm not the country club type. I don't know how to retire. I mean, because I'm living my passion. I'm living my dream.
That is the dream, I think, of every true entrepreneur, to really make a difference and to help as many people as possible. Because when you've partnered with companies and other non-profits like Airline Ambassadors who fly around the world, started by Nancy Rivard, who was an airline stewardess, and they fly all around and delivering food and supplies to children all around the world. And when you've created this product, which is the most nutrient-rich whole food on the planet, tell us, how can we get access to this? What type of products do you have for the end consumer, for the mums and dads out there and the children?
Well, I have, I want to say one thing real quickly, and that is that Nancy Rivard and Airline Ambassadors, I've just recently donated a ton of this product.
Literally a ton.
A ton, truly, a ton of this product.
Just super concentrated, yes, brown rice.
For Haitian relief from after the hurricane. And this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Now, in the interim, I've created NanaSea. NanaSea has a wonderful meal replacement called 24/7 that's based on the manna and also on this wonderful fiber I call FiberSea. And this is a meal replacement that literally enables your body to repair and regenerate and heal itself.
It kind of makes sense. If the reason why, we're getting chronic degenerative diseases because we're not eating well enough, one-on-one biology, right? And we're eating the most nutrient-rich whole food. That's how we heal?
Yes,
naturally?
Exactly. Well, you've been taking these products for at
a
least a year.
Ever
yes,
since I came across you, your work.
That's right. And you have to experience them because it's life-altering when you get super nourished.
Absolutely. And when I first tasted it, it was like, it's like a milkshake, a chocolate milkshake, or vanilla, or whatever, natural flavor. To share with our audience, how do you actually take it? Is it what type of format?
Well, the 24/7 is a powder that you can reconstitute with water or whole milk or almond milk, and you take it in the morning as a meal replacement. It's an adaptogen. People that are overweight tend to lose weight. People that are underweight seem to put on weight. It has the ability to enable the body to balance itself. This is something that is very, very special for people that are really quite ill and don't want a meal replacement. And they can literally, it's so delicious that it melts right in your mouth. You can take a spoon of it if you're very, very sick. I've seen miraculous things happen with people with liver diseases, and I'm all about doing clinical trials, and I'm continuing to do that.
You've done literally decades of research, and
yes,
you've got all that on the website, which we'll put up on our screen.
Wonderful.
And so manna rice solubles is what you're sending over to third world countries.
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the feeding programs for the malnourished and people in famine and so on?
Well, one of the issues we have, I've created this bar which is called Rice Yummy.
Yummies. Look at that.
And it is made from the NanaSea manna. And it is, I mix it with rice bran oil and coconut oil and a vitamin premix. And this is a carrier or a delivery system that we can custom tailor. For instance, let's say that there's a population that is very deficient in zinc. We can increase the zinc in this bar. Right now it's in a bar form. We have also a paste form that can be squeezed out of the tube. we find that in many instances, children are so malnourished and so ill that if they get food into their system that isn't pre-digested, then they they go into shock. It's a terrible situation. And this manna is an example. It is pre-digested, so it's very gentle on the system, but all the nutrients are there, and it's just incredible to see how the children respond to these foods.
That's amazing. That's truly amazing. And we look forward to hearing about more of these feeding programs and literally feeding the poor around the world and helping us who are overfed and undernourished.
Yeah, you got that right.
Oh my goodness. So, thank you so much for the work that you've been doing for humanity. And come back to our show and tell us more about the future work that you do.
I would love to, and thank you so much for having me.
Lovely. And that's all we have for the New Millionaire. Take care, and we'll see you soon.